So this here is the mono budget Annie deck that I used to beat Master Yi 2-1. It was mid-range, the Master Yi did break, however this is a really budget build, $100 or less roughly, prices are fluctuating. However, it did pretty good since it didn't have all the crazy expensive cards. My name's John Panio, we have a Discord community where we talk about all things Riftbound related, links in the description down below. Let's jump into the deck list. So let's start off with our Legend and Champion. We're using Annie. At the end of your turn, you ready 2 runes, so we play a lot of spells. This also says, Annie Fiery, your spells and abilities deal 1 bonus damage. This will matter. For runes, we're doing mono red, so all 12 of these are red. For battlefields, we're doing the Arena's Greatest. At the start of each player's first beginning phase, you gain a point. Reaver's Row, when you defend here, you move a friendly unit from here to base. And then Void Gate, spells and abilities affecting units here deal 1 bonus damage. The game plan of this deck is pretty simple. We have a bunch of units that get value that are cheap, that can take points, and then we control the board state with these cards. So we're running 1 Vi for our endgame, 2 Tibbers also for our endgame, 3 Cleaves, 3 Stack Deck, 3 Hextech Ray, 3 Falling Stars, 3 Void Seekers, 3 Traveling Merchant, 3 Legion Rearguard, 3 Noxus Hopeful, 3 Draven Showboat, 3 Twisted Fate. We have our Tibbers. We're running a single Seal, 1 Sundisk, 2 Gust, 2 Iron Ballistas. The game plan of this deck is very simple. We want to have our early drops to be able to take points early on. We also have the ability to accelerate this guy to steal points. Noxus Hopeful is a good card for 2 for 4 if you can get the Legion effect. Draven gets very strong. He's your cheap late game, mid game card. Twisted Fate's ability is very good because you deal 2 damage to a unit here and +1 to all other units. And since we are playing mono red, we will always get his effect. And you can always pair that up with Annie Fiery, which gives +1 to spell damage. So then Twisted Fate becomes a deal 3 damage to a unit here and 2 to all other units here, which is very, very strong. This card can always trade up, so it can kill a 6 might unit by itself, as well as 7 if you have Annie Fiery. The single copy of Vi is to be able to get a very strong endgame, to be able to swing over your opponent's board. And then we have a bunch of control spells to be able to look for our endgame. So the deck functions pretty well, only because number 1, it's fast, so it can deal with Yi. And number 2, you can also deal with removal very well, because if Yi plays anything with a 2 health, or 3 health, or 4 health, Void Seeker, Falling Star, Hextech Rays, and Ballista can take care of all that. We also have 2 copies of Gust to be able to get rid of units off the battlefield. That's very important for being able to take points away from your opponent, because you want to be able to take the lead early on, and just having early tempo on the battlefield is really, really important. The single copy of Sundisk is to be able to give our units accelerate, only because the only thing in our deck is the Legion Rearguard that can accelerate. We're not running any Dariuses because Dariuses are quite expensive, but all these cards are relatively cheap except for certain cards. Falling Stars are 15, Seals are about 15. This is a $1-ish card. These are all like 50 cents-ish. This is $1.50. This is like pennies, 10 cents. $3, $2. This is the most expensive one. This is about 13. So, and these have gone up in price, but I was able to get these for 50 cents earlier. So in terms of the overall deck here, it's about, $100. A lot of budget cards that you can use to be able to win. Obviously, this deck would get a lot stronger if you added cards like Darius, Kai'Sa, those would be the 2 main ones that you would add in, but those have gone pretty expensive. They're about a $15 card, as well as Kai'Sa, which is now a $60, $70 card. But this deck does run into the issue of not having enough draw power, because the only way you can truly draw is with Void Seeker, and it's also very, very expensive on power. So the single Seal is probably not enough. You probably want to be running 2 Seals. You probably want to run 3 Kai'Sas as well as 3 Darius if you want to make this deck a lot stronger. Because right now in its current form, it lacks a lot of power to be able to effectively control the board when you're in mid to late game, because you run out of cards and really quickly you end up in a top deck state. And her Darkchild ability only gets value for spells that have action or reaction. Outside of that, you wouldn't be able to take advantage of it. So in order to make this deck a lot better, you're going to have to be running either a lot more action or reaction spells, or you have to be running Darius's as well as Kai'Sa to be able to fix your card draw. But overall, this deck is very, very strong for the price point that what it is. A lot of people probably have Proving Grounds. This is a pretty easy deck to make. Falling Stars aren't too crazy, and you have a lot of strong value cards. I like this deck because of the Twisted Fate combo. Twisted Fate mono red with Fiery Annie is a pretty fun combination, as well as Draven to be able to get a bunch of points with Trifarian and stealing points early on. Overall, really strong deck list. Let me know what your take on the Annie deck would be. Links in the description down below for my Discord meeting, so make sure you join that. John Panio signing out. See you guys in the next video. Bye-bye for now.